Today's chat is brought to you by, well, all of your support. Through the patronage you provide the Focus Fire chat team through Podbean's crowdfunding, we are able to provide you with the weekly podcast, as well as the game streams, website, and other aspects of Focus Fire chat. If you have any interest in becoming a patron of the FFC, please be sure to visit our website and click on the support link. Even a single dollar helps, and for those of you who are already patrons, thank you again for your generosity.
Welcome to Focus Fire Chat. Explore together.
Welcome back for episode 124 of Focus Fire Chat, recorded live on March 8th, 2018 over on twitch.tv/FocusFireChat. Big shout out to our live chat here. Thank you so much for joining us for an evening back in the tower. This is your host, Blue Crew 86. Alongside me, we have the man who, it has been said, has the voice of the flower and definitely not the personality of one. An individual who goes by many names, Justin Sane 0516. Justin, what guys do you have on for us tonight?
I am Bariana 3. We have Light and Fury. That'll be enough, I think, for a podcast.
I'm sorry.
Right?
I'm proud that I made my way through that much of the intro without breaking.
Good job. Good job. That's growth.
Alongside us, we also have our master of social media, the one and only Green-Eyed Music Lover. Green, hope you're doing well tonight. Are you looking forward to the chat tonight?
You mean having an opportunity to just kind of poke at Beard all night long because we're talking about his stuff?
I was worried there that we weren't going to have the one Warlock on for the Warlock episode.
You know, I mean, we keep catching like a whole bunch of flack for not having a Titan on our Titan podcast. I'm just glad we have. I mean, I love the fact that we are mostly hunters, but I'm kind of glad we have a little bit more diversity.
The Titans aren't needed anyway. It's still
Oh, Titan is my second. You take that back.
Nope.
I will defend that.
Nope. Nope.
Nope.
Look,
Nope.
just be glad that I have the ability that I can at least play a hunter at some point or another and be okay with that fact, all right?
I am going to sick waning on you.
Oh, okay, that's nice. She'll just pour me a cold one and it'll be fine. We'll get along.
Yeah, probably.
And
Yeah, exactly.
shoot me with her garbage grenade launcher.
Yeah, I'm going to say I'm not really scared of that thing to begin with.
Yeah.
Well,
Fair.
obviously, we also have with us the grizzly bearded cultivator of Spinfoil, Beard Grizzly. Beard, how are you doing tonight?
I am doing pretty okay. And the only reason that I'm doing pretty okay is because my sister has to go home tomorrow.
Oh,
And
that's never
it has
fun.
been an absolutely wonderful month and a half of her being home. It has absolutely been the reason that I have not had really any content go up on the channel in the last and a half. But it's bittersweet because I know she needs to get home. She's got her own things she needs to take care of. Tonight, though, I totally forgot that Resident Evil 7 came out with some DLC, and she had bought me that game last year when she had come home. So tonight, that's what we were doing for a couple hours, was just blitzing through all of that, which is the reason I was a little late tonight. Again, scaring all you hunters, because apparently you need to rely on a warlock to do your job.
Hey.
I mean, somebody had to say it.
Hey.
Oh, if you want to allow 3 hunters to write your history,
No.
go on.
I can barely allow Pancake to go ahead and write his own no.
Okay.
No.
Okay, you
He
act like
cannot
you're doing
write
us a favor. This is self-preservation you're
This
doing
is
right here, buddy.
self-preservation.
I will not stand having any hunters write anything for me.
Okay. And you can't have the Titans do it because they couldn't spell it.
Oh.
There we go.
Oh.
See?
Ouch. I think Pins is going to hurt you for that one. Ah.
Books? No. Rocks. Books. No,
Fist.
it was rocks. No, books. Books for the Titans. There it is. I had to think on the exact quote. It's been a while.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. Well,
Man.
last week we asked the community who was their favorite Warlock, and the responses are in, and that answer was What do we got for us, Green?
Frankly, we had a lot of people write in, which granted Twitter polls only allow you 4 choices. So I just kind of picked 4 of them that we see most often-ish, except for one of them, which has just kind of been a pain in everybody's side. Toland. The winner of the poll between Osiris, Toland, Asher, and Ikora was Toland with 36%. Osiris coming in close behind with 27, then Ikora at 26. For a while there, Toland and Osiris were tied for quite a while, and we had over 100 people submit. As far as like the write-ins, Ulan-Tan was definitely one of the more prominent ones that were written in. Unisys actually wrote in Toland. JC wrote in Asher. And this one, I'm including JC's little quote for you because she likes beard. I know I'm in the minority, but I like Asher mostly because of his grumpiness makes me laugh. But I also enjoyed learning more about him while playing too. And Rhino says Ulan-Tan because he's the OG. Is that how you do that?
Mm-hmm.
The OG.
No, you did a rap last week.
Yeah, are we gonna put those up somewhere for people?
I'm trying to get them put on YouTube.
Okay.
This week was a little busy.
Yeah, it's been crazy. But yeah, most people were happy to say Toland, the traitorish warlock. But yeah.
Once again, evil prevails.
Evil prevails.
No. Just
So
chaotic. Anyway.
Where is your light now?
Mm-hmm.
So we appreciate obviously the feedback on those. This week's question to the community, I really like the one that Green has for us. What does the horse represent in the Spire?
So if you don't remember what our topic is for next week, that would be a really confusing question.
Mm-hmm. We'll get to it in the intro here in a second for the housekeeping notes.
Okay.
But no, see, you took all the fun out of it. I want people confused.
Well, horses traditionally in folklore,
Here we go.
And
Not yet.
and
That's next week.
they've symbolized evil and
Justin.
deviousness.
Justin.
Yeah.
Do we need to get you another counseling session?
No.
No,
The last
okay.
one. I do believe the words of the last counselor were terminally untreatable.
God. Okay. Well,
Oh,
at least I know that money was well spent.
I told her that I had been tested. Okay.
Your mother had you tested?
My mother had me tested and that I was okay.
You're
She
not
did.
crazy. It's okay.
No. Continue.
Play me off, Johnny.
Oh, man. So we're looking forward to diving into the discussion. I know the team is here as well. So let's go through the intro notes real quick, and then we'll get right into it. The topic for this week's chat is going to be a look at the updates in Destiny 2 to the Warlock class. Before we jump into that, however, I do have a few housekeeping notes to run through. In our last chat, we discussed biases in lore. If you ever miss an episode and would like to catch up, please be sure to check out the new FocusFireChat.com for archives, articles, and links to the other aspects of FocusFire Chat. If you don't mind, please rate, and if you can, review the show in iTunes, Podbean, or whichever podcasting app you use to enjoy podcasts. Reviews in particular are extremely helpful as they help us show up on charts, and that helps others find the FFC community. To those of you who have already taken the time to leave us a review, thank you again. As many of you already know, Focus Fire Chat is a cross-community gathering where the intent is to offer a week-long, in-depth view of a particular subject from within the lore of Destiny and other games. This chat begins every Tuesday morning and runs until the following Tuesday, with topics decided by the group via a poll that begins every Friday and ends on the Tuesday morning of the new chat. Every Friday at around 10 p.m. Central, we get together to stream a recap of the previous week's chat for those who were unable to participate. Please be sure to also give some support to the other podcasts in the Guardian Radio Network, links of which can be found in our show notes or on our website. Podcasts focused on Destiny include Guardian Radio, the first and longest running Destiny podcast on the net, Guardian One, which is a Destiny group dedicated to Guardians helping Guardians and discussing current Destiny news and happenings, Ghost and Echoes, a collection of the Destiny audio grimoire from Destiny 1, and the network's newest edition, This Guardian Life, which is a podcast from the casual Guardians perspective that highlights all Guardians, large and small. We do also have a non-Destiny focused podcast, The Enthusiast Life, which is a podcast that discusses a wide range of fun topics from within the entertainment world. Our next chat is going to be a discussion on the updates to the 9, so be sure to weigh in on the poll this weekend to let us know which topic you would like to discuss after that. Links to that poll can be found on either Twitter at FocusFireChat or within our Discord server. I asked Green to put together a high-level summary of tonight's topic, and this is what she had to say.
Ulan-Tan, Asher Mir, Ikora Ray, Toland, Osiris, Fellwinter, Ariana 3, all notable warlocks, but for very different reasons. Whether you embrace the praxic fire or prefer a more indirect approach, as a warlock, your legacy lies in both your intelligence and your brutal efficiency. Our update in D2 on the Warlock goes beyond the subclass into legends themselves, both a spotlight on their past and honoring their future. Like Ikora Ray said, I'd tell my younger self, there will be plenty of time to settle down. For now, enjoy the ride.
Before we jump into the information and thoughts that the community had about Warlocks, however, let's look at this week's Lost Lore. All right, so I believe this week's Lost Lore, we should look at the Grove of Ulan-Tan, I think. Green, do you want to kind of walk us through that one for us?
Can. I was just wanting to mainly, the Grove of Ulan-Tan, okay, step back a little bit. Grove of Ulan-Tan is on Io. It is within the, give me a second to pull up the map. It is in the Lost Oasis section. It's the first lost sector on the far left after you boot in. It's the one I always run to in IO when I have to do lost sectors because it's the quickest one to get to. But it has generally Vex inhabiting it. And there's a lot of blue liquidy stuff. But who is or who was Ulan-Tan? Beard? You want to do the honors?
What was that? I'm sorry.
I said, who was Ulan-Tan?
Oh boy. Oh boy. You opened the good one on this.
I even have the cards and the show notes for you if you want to pull them up.
I have them open already, actually.
Nice.
I was actually ahead of the game this time.
Yay!
Which is a shocker.
Nah, not so shocking.
The big thing with Ulan-Tan, he's dead. Unfortunately, we don't know how he died, and that actually kind of colludes some of the mystery and really kind of wraps him into this different vicinity. It's a weird place for a warlock to be in a lot of ways because we're used to at least having some sort of face to face with at least a good majority of them, and this is even saying that we've had some fair face to face, if you will, with Toland, but it's more so through Eris. With Ulan-Tan, all we get is a lot of stuff through either quest text or through some of the mission logs. And we also see some stuff that actually starts to corroborate my big thinking on why the speaker is kind of the way that he is, which is funny that Ulan-Tan was the one that really kind of made that one slip. Ghost ends up referencing that the speaker is the one that's responsible for thinking about the ideas of light being interconnected across all realms, even throughout the void or otherwise. It was in fact Ulan-Tan that had come up with that idea, told the speaker, and the speaker ended up claiming it as his own thoughts. Gotta love it. Love the speaker. He's a great guy. The biggest thing about Ulan-Tan, however, and that's kind of where it comes down to, he studied the ideas of light, and he studied the properties of light a little bit further than I would argue to say that most other warlocks had done before. He was kind of a radical in how he thought on his stuff, and so much so that a lot of his thinkings were very, very outlandish. But largely, the large thing with Ulan-Tan was that he felt that, and this is the big reason that people kind of feared him towards the end of everything, and even after the symmetry was founded, he had actually believed that both light and dark cannot exist without the other. And of course, it's that obvious parallel that we see throughout fantasy, or even with modern age science, that we see constantly. And that actually is showcased with something like the Symmetry Flight, which is a Destiny 2 ship that we actually have.
Obligatory dog barks.
Morph, morph. It's okay. I'm going to take a drink of water. I'm actually going to read over Symmetry Flight then. So if you want to do that thing you do, Blue.
Oh, yeah. What does the text say?
Look at me keeping this podcast going.
You're getting good at this. It's like you've done this before.
All right. So again, this is the Symmetry Flight, and this is a lore tab that is introduced in Destiny 2 on the new ship. To have light, we must have dark. This is the symmetry of the universe. Controversial Warlock Ulan-Tan. I propose a simple experiment. Look around. You see light. You see darkness. There could not be one without the other. They are two sides of the same coin. If it is true for these Newtonian echoes, why would it not be true of the purest paracausal forms? Therefore, I conclude, the reason you persecute me is not because of the symmetry. It's because of the truth beyond this truth. The truth which you most dread. If we could destroy darkness, but we had to give up our light to do so, how many of us would make that trade? And of course, this is where the ideas of the symmetry are completely born, but it's the largest thing that Ulan-Tan is pretty well known for, is this idea that both light and dark, again, are kind of mixed together into the universe within. And it's a balance that effectively can still be there, or still needs to be weighed, because if one is snuffed out, the other could possibly not exist. That's the whole exact vicinity behind the ideas of symmetry. Because contrary to what anybody may end up thinking or feeling, the ideas of darkness and the ideas of light, if darkness were to somehow snuff out light, it wouldn't be that darkness would be the only thing left. You would have nothingness. And that is a vast difference.
Mm-hmm.
So the largest thing to kind of keep in mind is the ideas that Ulan-Tan was basically pushed away, if you will, because of these controversial thoughts. But he was still referenced often by Ikora. He was still referenced often by the speaker. There are many others that still look back at his teachings and philosophies. And this actually comes back to the card Chamber of Night, or really the mission Chamber of Night. I always forget that that's a very important one. But in this mission, and this comes back to what the speaker had kind of coalesced as his own wording for the way that light is able to intermingle across any length of space and time. The Chamber of Night spot is where we end up finding the Shard of the Traveler. And this is basically the thing, to me, that states that if not everything of Ulan-Tan is proven fact, then at least the large majority of it is. And this is why I personally start to kind of hold a lot of his word, a lot of his ideas more to fact than I would even hold Osiris. And that's saying something, because Osiris, of course, as we know, is a very big thinker, but Ulan-Tan is, to me, so important to our full understanding of light and dark that he basically bridged that gap where Toland was too concerned with the Hive to think on their throne realms and ascendant planes, while Osiris is too busy thinking about the Vex and understanding that they are the quote-unquote pure evil that may exist in the universe. Ulan-Tan is focusing more on the paracausal physical, if you will. It is more that he is focusing more heavily on those ideas that actually matter back to us, and I love that. Mm-hmm. But Justin, I think you had something on that?
No, I was just going to say Ulan-Tan deals at a much more meta level of everything, whereas Osiris and Toland got real granular in their dissection of the Hive and the Vex. They get really in depth into those little niches, but Ulan-Tan is more of his philosophy is more of a overarching metaphysical theory than like a specialized way of thinking. Mm-hmm. And it's not an entirely novel theory. I mean, it's a trope that's been been trotted out for a good long while. Mm-hmm. But his application of it is I think what lands him in the position where most of the Vanguard view him as being kind of dangerous, and his teachings. And I've always found it kind of interesting that his teachings have been thought to have been so dangerous because they seem so common sense. Mm-hmm. But it seems to incite fear. When you suggest that the darkness isn't inherently wrong, but rather it's completely natural.
Well, and to follow up on that point quick, and Green, I know you've got something you wanted to add. Mm-hmm. The same thing happened with most scientists of ancient, either ancient Earth or even modern day Earth, from Renaissance period and beyond. The idea, effectively, that their thoughts had the same implication, that they were that dangerous. That's where Ulan-Tan kind of reminds me of, I'll at least pull this name, the Fraunhofers of the day. Fraunhofer actually had so many, and before I get fully invested on this science tangent, Fraunhofer was able to look through panes of glass and be able to tell the light spectrum, look at a star, and effectively say what that star is made out of. And these lines are at least, and have been, cataloged for years, and we can't really find another system that works better. But the idea that, again, light connects all of us, Fraunhofer proves that more than some others do. It is not, as Justin had said, a terribly new concept, but it's imagining, and the way that Ulan-Tan has the capability to imagine it as it is here today with the Traveler is very important. This still comes back to what Ikora did with circles. That means a big deal just as much. And these are the interweavings of how the Warlocks have to effectively build their theories, build their concepts, is based off of the metaphysical that we see, or they have to lose themselves in an otherworldly madness and have to break themselves off from what we see, i.e. with Toland or borderline heavily with Osiris. Anyway, before I keep going with other tangents, Green, you had something else?
I was actually going to pose a question / possible spinfoil with the Ulan-Tan's Grove. Mm-hmm. right away when D2 dropped, a lot of people assumed that the Grove was his resting place. I'd like to posit another possibility. I think it's the place he did his meditations to come up with his theory. Because if you go into the deep area of it and defeat the Keeper, the Vex Keeper, and just stand around and kind of just view the area, it feels like you're underwater. And the reason why you're not actually underwater, you're not even, if you have to stand outside of the little blue liquid light type stuff, but you see the light and darkness play throughout the cavern, and it feels very underwater ocean-like. And it makes me wonder if Ulan was actually sitting here and reflecting on the play between the two and how they interplay with each other. Because you have this little lake in the middle of this cave, this cavern that feels very much so like it's underwater, but it's not. It's literally just the play between the light and the dark and how they have to be together in this area. And you see everything undulating. Like literally the rocks move with this darkness and light playing on each other. But it's just it's another possibility as to what the Grove was formerly used for. Like if he actually used it as a meditation space, it would be kind of a fun night.
I'm going to say, as Blue has been pointing out in chat here too, Warlocks are mostly buried on Io. Not at least all of them, but at least the major ones that have their bodies recovered. Yes, they're pretty well buried on. To say that the areas that they have, because I feel that there is a reason that the Grove of Ulan-Tan is his resting place. That would be a very good connection as to that being the case. Just it being a place where he was formulating his thoughts and ideas. The place that, being able to view the Traveler's Light and then see how it acts and see how it changes. Yeah, I could easily see that. Blue, I think you had something. Sorry.
Yeah, no. I was going to say, we know that the planet of Io, or the moon of Io, I guess, is extremely important to the Warlocks because it was the last really big resting place of the Traveler. Like the Titans being buried at the Wall, because they hold it as the pinnacle of their group existence, pretty much. Warlocks are buried on Io for the same reason. The Warlocks hold that completely. That location is very sacred, and the idea of a grove or a sacred resting spot being larger than just the modern concept of a graveyard is the grave site. That's actually not the case in a lot of like, especially for what Beard was saying, especially for very important figures. It was very common for there to be very ceremonial areas. And just look at, for example, the pyramids from Egypt. These are massive tombs. You have the passage tombs in the European countries. You have catacombs in the Italian area, and actually most of Europe as well. You have bone chapels in most of Western Europe, and this is a concept that as a society is not anything new. Just like what you guys were talking about with the symmetry concept of light and dark. That's not anything new. It's a way of us posthumously showing respect to the dead and remembering them. But another thing too, going back to the comment about the symmetry being such a dangerous thing, the other thing you have to remember is the social context in which the city existed at the time that Ulan-Tan was kind of in power, and I guess quote in power. They were at war, and the thing is when you're at war, if you have someone who is going around preaching about how you can't defeat an enemy without defeating yourself, that's not very, very good morale boost for your soldiers. So if you think about it from a military standpoint, it's not going to behoove you to have a figure of prominent power or prominent placement that is saying that the only way to defeat the darkness is to, trade in your light, when the light is the only weapon really that you have that is effective against that. And so that's also another kind of political bend to the whole thing with Ulan-Tan, is that it may be not that the philosophical statements were dangerous, it was that the context in which he was saying them, that those particular statements were very threatening to maybe a very thin veneer of calm and, the illusion of peace that the city had. So there is that. And again, to go back to the thing about the speaker, the speaker, well, we can, hash out how he did it, but at the point in time that this was all happening, he was at war. Like, this entire city was at war. And they still are, technically, but it was even more in desperate straits than they are today. So anything to keep peace was pretty much, I get the feeling that anything that kept the peace was pretty much sanctioned. And, that doesn't always mean that good things kept the peace. But so, and so Green's asking where it was said that the Warlocks were buried. I want to say that it was a comment from Ikora. I thought it was I think it was in a transcript, and I'm going to have to...
I'm going through some of the missions right now, just trying to find the transcript that would say it. Right now, I haven't found it yet, but I am going to keep looking, because I don't know if we actually have a flat-out somebody saying it. It's just, it's one of the things I want to confirm. Yeah.
I've heard it, but I can't remember if it was like full interview or if it was something that was actually said in game. I just know for a fact that I'm not like making it up in my mind. I've heard it at least. But yeah, it would take me a little time to dig to find. But I know it's.
If you are out there, podcast listeners, and you know where that's at and you want to help us out, that would be super, super helpful. Just at me at Twitter or get a hold of me in the Discord. I'd like to know where that's actually said, just for my own continued canon. And I know there's a few of you out there who like to share that kind of stuff. So definitely
same
drop a note
too.
at us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because
I'm racking my brain and I can't remember where it would be.
The mission is sacrilege that we find that all guardians hold Io sacred.
Warlocks.
No, it says guardians. Ghost says Io. The whole place hums with the energy left behind the traveler's unfinished work. No wonder guardians consider this site sacred.
Mm-hmm. But Ikora in the mission says that it's very.
Yeah,
Warlock,
no, I think the
sure.
yeah.
But yeah, it's one of those things that we'll have to continually search, and our job is never done when it comes to transcribing. Diving into it.
Yeah, no, that is definitely true. But yeah, I'm with Beard. I'm like, I know I've heard it, and
I want to say I've heard it too, but I want to.
Yeah, I want to confirm it.
Mm-hmm.
I really want to say it was more so said in an interview somewhere. I don't believe it is said anywhere, but I could be wrong on that idea. And even then, it could have been something where they that's the problem with like the taking interviews as the idea of canon. Is they could have meant, warlocks take it as sacred, and then in game it says guardians take it as sacred.
Mm-hmm.
And now, obviously, of course, that ends up changing the meaning behind it. Obviously, it's a very, like, Echo Mesa and Io are very important spots for guardians, the tower, for the city, as it marked a farther standpoint for where humanity had been beforehand. And for us to be able to get out that far again is very important as well. Mm-hmm. And, of course, the place that the traveler had last touched is also very important, because we obviously see how, like, outlandishly crazy the planet is with the Traveler's Light and just how like nutsed up it is, because it's just the either terraforming didn't work out so well, which again we'll get back to with Titan on several occasions, or there's some other reason that much energy is stowed inside the moon. It's questioned.
That, and it just, the whole planet seems like a dried up ocean.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the things I love about it. I feel like I'm constantly in this underground, or like under the sea bed type stuff, all over the place.
Modern day IO has some very real reasons for that, and that goes back to the design team, the art team, for doing the research on like how IO is today from the scans that we've been able to get of. And there's a lot of it feels like, yes, it does feel like it's like underwater a lot of times, but there's no water to really be found, except for, I believe, liquid is it liquid nitrogen is found at certain places, or liquid methane?
It's in one of the moons of Jupiter, so that would not surprise me, either one of those.
It's trace amounts, I know, and there's like a couple places that have some fair heavy lead, but apart from that, yeah, there's I don't want to start talking about it because I don't have it all in front of me, and I haven't looked at IO in a little while, but they do a very good job of, I know, correlating everything and making it feel like how IO would be if somebody actually put an atmosphere around it.
Mm-hmm. It is definitely one of the locations that I want to learn a lot more about.
Yeah.
I would, with the exception of Titan, it is the place I want to learn more about.
Arguably, you want to know more about Titan because of the arcology. You don't really want to know about it too much about the planet itself. Meanwhile, I'm looking at it going, how did we lose all that land on Titan? Mm-hmm. What the heck, guys?
Well, and the interesting thing about Io is that in-game it's kind of that bluish color. Right. In reality, Io is actually kind of red because of all the sulfur.
Right.
So
it's the changes that could have happened with
because Jupiter's gravitational pull just like constantly screwing with it.
Right.
Also, fun little fact on Io, it is the only location in-game where one of those orreries, those little miniature scannable orreries, there's one that's actually active.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in the Lost Oasis. It's kind of above the Ulan-Tan.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Well, you want to jump real quick into the lore entries that we got in regards to Warlocks in particular?
We can.
For sure.
Which one do you guys want to start with? We have, actually, I think we have, three? We have Wings of the Sacred Dawn, Curse of Foresight, and the Bond of the Emperor.
And just to be clear, there's a lot of flavor text that we got. If you want to look at that, I did link the mind map in my Twitter account earlier, or just hit me up. There's a lot of flavor text to dig through as well. But yeah, these are the three main lore entries that we've gotten. And
I'm trying to remember. I think the Wings of Sacred Dawn is particularly about. Is actually probably one of the ones. Yeah, well, it's. I'm just thinking real quick. I think it's one of the ones that really focuses on the Warlock itself, whereas the other two are kind of like their exotic gear for the Warlock, but not necessarily about the Warlock, if that makes sense.
Well, there's the one that we have a few of the lore entries that talk about the student and the master. This is the more serious one, the Wings of Sacred Dawn. There's the other one is not as serious. It's more quite hilarious, actually, from a teacher perspective.
Yeah. Sword.
Yeah.
That's the Dawnblade one, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that, it's the one where he's like, he's lecturing the student. Do you want me to read it real quick or do you want me to read the Wings of Sacred Dawn?
Might as well. We'll start there.
All right. What does the text say? There will come a day when the light will never fade. The parable of the venging fire as interpreted by Pajari. A young warlock travels to her mentor, seeking the truth of the praxic fire. A wildfire rages in a valley nearby. Her mentor points to the billowing smoke, saying, "This is the praxic fire. Go and learn what you can." And the student returns to her teacher, saying, "Master, the fire does not ask, the fire acts. That is the truth." Her mentor laughs, and the flames leave the sky from the valley and surround the teacher, and the wind blows the smoke away. The old warlock, now wreathed in flame with a great outstretched wing, says, "The heart of the praxic fire is the warlock. Without the warlock, the fire does not ask or act. Be the fire, or be the smoke on the wind." The cowering student stands, her palms closing into fists. Dun dun.
Constantly, questioning teacher. That's what I'm learning from all these warlock cards, is the warlocks are constantly badgering the teacher but.
But you said.
Meanwhile, the teacher's just like, hey, you shut up and learn something.
Yeah, pretty much.
Fire.
Yeah.
I
swear if that's followed up by wind, water, heart, we're going home.
No. This isn't Captain Planet.
With your powers combined.
No. Even I veto that one.
Okay.
What about him being our hero? Gonna take pollution down to something.
0.
I mean, we kind of need him nowadays, but that's getting too close to real life.
Listen, we need to just take a step back. I'm a Widget the World Watcher guy, so I'm not up for this conversation. Yeah.
Do you want to read the Dawnblade card, Justin?
I will.
I put it in chat for you.
I'm on it.
Like peanut butter on toast.
Gross. So, wow. Do you want something dry that will make you thirsty? Peanut butter on toast.
It's amazing. That's why you have a glass of milk nearby.
Yes. Salt and lemon juice. Perfect combination. So, the Dawnblade. Spread your wings and set the sky ablaze. A young... I'm sorry. Sorry, the hyphenate messed me up. A young, by Warlock standards, apprentice holds out a hand and reaches for a flame. Nothing. The wizened teacher laughs. You're supposed to be teaching me, not laughing. The teacher's arm extends as one word hangs in the air. Sword. As quickly as it appeared, the blade vanishes. That doesn't help. Sword. In a flash, the blade appears again. This time as at the student's throat. Both pairs of eyes widened, one aghast, one aglow. Say it with me. 2 voices ring. Sword. A blade appears in each outstretched hand. A pair of wings form on each warlock's back. 2 warlocks take flight and vow to never again look down. Wow. Can I just say that this has a very Aladdin, I can show you the world type feel to it.
And the Disney reference for the night.
I'm sure that's not going to be the only one.
Sword. It was everything I could do to not say sword. Sword.
I was actually thinking that these cards reminded me a lot of the Stormcaller mission from D1.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Has that very "you are the storm" feel.
Yeah. I can show you the sword.
Shining, slicing, and dicing.
Oh, that's good.
Oh, God. Stop. So, as funny as it is...
Oh.
Yep.
Interrupting Grizzly is interrupting.
Sun's getting low.
No, I will probably look every time you pass a pun, which is gonna be the way that I reference it at this point. I'm gonna just keep it in the back of my mind. I'm just gonna keep saving them up, and then eventually something will happen. I haven't thought of what, but something will happen.
At Guardian Con.
Getting probably when I'm, yeah. Anyway,
and the winner for most vague threat goes to Beard Grizzly. Do the sound, Blue.
Do the sound, Blue. Which one sound do you want me to do?
That's all Blue's good for anymore. We keep asking him to do sounds on the soundboard.
I was looking for the grizzly bear sound, but thanks.
Yes. So, back on topic about this Dawnblade business. As funny as it is, I'd actually gotten to talk with Bife about this one a little bit, and something that just never had a place in another conversation, something that we never really could figure out like where to kind of place it in, but it was just a cute little fact that we thought of. What if this teacher, because we know that Osiris is effectively a Dawnblade himself, one of these Dawnblades is actually Osiris. Mm-hmm. Either the teacher or the student. And I sat back and I thought about it a little bit more, and it would... No, I'm going to say it would definitely not be the student.
Oh, I guess in the wings, it's a female student. Right. So I was actually saying that could be...
Ikora
and Osiris.
Right. And that's where this whole discussion had kind of just started to form up, as how this would end up being as like one of the first things that Ikora had ever witnessed, and it stands in stark difference to the fact that she then understands the ideas of the Sunsinger. That would be the thing that would kind of like drive me nuts about it. Additionally, though, and it kind of plays off the other Warlock cards, however, the Voidwalker one talks about a Voidwalker that had actually seen Ikora doing battle outside with when Gaul had attacked the tower. So it started to kind of play back to make a little bit more sense that it was possibly in reference to Osiris and Ikora, or another Warlock set that we already know of. Or it could be a completely new one altogether. It's just a complete theory. And the only other piece of it then would come back to the Stormcaller, where we again don't necessarily know the person that learns it, but the way that everything kind of gets put together, we don't know the Warlock that it would have been. We don't know a lot of prominent Stormcallers that exist outside of like Timur and I think one other, but nothing within like current Tower Age. So that's where the theory kind of fell apart. But at least in terms of who it might be, at least you can kind of think about that as like a cute little sideline, if nothing else, because the way that Osiris would act within this card, he would be, he's still pretty, he's stern, he's strong, he still wants the Ikora to learn, he's still getting the point across, but he's still proving a point. Meanwhile, Ikora is
a very different Osiris, though, compared to what we know Osiris as, the hardened Warlock who's just kind of been thrown out of a tower type character.
Well, and this also stands in stark contrast to the first line that is basically listed, and it says, a young, by Warlock standards, apprentice holds out a hand and reaches for flame. So the idea would be that the teacher is also not exactly as advanced in years. And this would end up playing back to Ikora being a young, iconoclastic Warlock. And she is somebody that's a little bit more headstrong within her early days, as we end up finding out with her time that she spends in the Crucible and so on. So it's just these different little ways that they might have found a way to actually incorporate that Osiris and Ikora, even before we ended up seeing it in the Curse of Osiris, were actually student and teacher.
Well, I thought we had known that with D1. wasn't Ikora labeled as his student early on?
There, to my knowledge, was
I think
nothing that...
I think it might have been a mentorship. Like we knew Osiris came before Ikora as far as like the Vanguard.
Mm-hmm.
And there was theories that Osiris was the one that kind of calmed Ikora down from her iconoclastic ways, because we do know that there was a warlock involved with Ikora who basically took her pretty strongly under their wing and kind of calmed her down, which of the warlocks at the time, Osiris was kind of the only one that fit the bill for that particular thing. So, which, I mean, I kind of want to say it's been pretty subtly confirmed that was kind of what happened.
Okay.
I mean, that's how I read it. I mean, I remember kind of what you're talking about too.
Yeah, I can't recall anything that like absolutely puts a finger on it, but there's mention of a mentorship as I think that's about as far as it ends up going. Fortunately, I don't think we get full confirmation, at least. Yeah,
I mean, it's Destiny.
Yeah, I'm going to say they left a lot, of course, that was very open, and I'm as thankful as I am for it. Sometimes it drives me absolutely up a tree. No.
Mm-hmm.
Black Flag in chat, though, just to kind of continue with the idea of the Dawnblade, since it is the most, it's the newest and the most prevalent of the Warlock classes that are out there now. He asks, how many Warlocks of Legend do you believe become Dawnblades or became Dawnblades? We don't know.
Yeah, and I think that also begs the question of, you know, where are you in the camp of Guardians picking and sticking to one subclass? You know, which I find this kind of interesting that this debate still goes on, but I mean, the Vanguard mentors are masters or are experienced in all subclasses.
Efficient.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I would say experienced too, because they're, you know, the idea is that they're mentors. They're supposed to lead. And so, I mean, if you're just proficient, I don't know. Semantics on that front.
Right.
But, and then outside of that, well, Osiris, we now have, you know, solid confirmation. We kind of always knew he was a Vanguard, but, you know, outside of the Vanguard figures, Toland and Saint 14 are really the only two other Guardians that come to mind immediately that were just as, if not more, proficient in multiple subclasses. Like, we know Wei Ning could access different subclasses. We also know that Wei Ning did not like to access other subclasses. She was able, well, she wasn't actually able to summon the Word of Dawn, but she tried. Like, she could access the Void, but she didn't like it. She was more inclined to the Striker. You know, the figures of like Ariana, we don't really know enough to tell you, but she does seem to be much more of a Sun Singer. You know, and that's because I go back and forth on that, but she was definitely a solar aligned figure. You know, Teamer was definitely the Stormcaller. Fellwinter was kind of one of those weird ones because we don't really know what exactly he was. But we do know that he was able to do a Nova Bomb.
Right.
You know, and so he obviously is usually associated with Void. You know, and so on and so on. So like but that doesn't mean that a Guardian doesn't have. It's not like class, right? Where even that is kind of open, and we can argue that till we're blue in our face. But it's not as hard set, I would say. It's not as rigid. Not to say that is unbreakable, but it is not as rigid as your actual class. So, like, if you're a hunter, you can dabble in all 3 or 4, however you want to label them, subclasses. But you can't really as far as we currently see in game, you can't dabble in like Warlock subclasses. Like that's actually
okay. What about the Fellwinter debate about what he could do?
Well, and that's what I was actually going to talk about that, because that's actually what I'm writing on the website, is these articles about the worldview and the dichotomies that each class seem to kind of personify. I already did the Hunter article, so I'm doing the Titan one right now, actually. And there definitely seems to be a correlation between classes and the paradigm in which the character in question sees things. However, anyone who's, somewhat versed in psychology understands that this doesn't mean that they're stuck. Like, you can change your worldview. I mean, if a certain traumatic event was enough, that can drastically change your psychological perception of the world. And so that's where I'm kind of like, I'm not uncomfortable with the idea that Guardians can even flip classes. Because if you view, I mean, it's just a logical progression of that concept. But to say that they don't have access to other subclasses, I mean, like, I definitely see a alignment of the different subclasses with different aspects of particular spikes. But yeah, I don't know. Beard, save me. I can go on and on about this particular thing. So yeah, just go.
You and I, at the very least, and I know Green and I get into the discussion even on our own off and on, but the paradigms behind like how classes are chosen and everything.
Right.
That's actually what's going on right now in live chat, which is fantastic, because live chat is absolutely a buzz tonight. So thank you guys for participating highly. So while I'm looking at this, Black Flag though is talking about, I like the idea that all Guardians have a type of light that they're more attuned towards, even if they are proficient enough to access all the subclass.
And that's how I see it. That's how I see it.
I think that's a very key thing to think about, because with exception, I would say that the tertiary subclasses are the ones that are a little bit on the questionable side, but that's only because they seem like they're so distant from some of the original teachings or feelings, or they've made a point to kind of point it out, like the hunters being afraid to reach into the void because it might turn them into a monster, the Titans literally having the hammer, or the ideas of solar light being ripped away from them out of the city, and then Warlocks needing to find that calm and balance between Sunsinger and Nova and the Void. It's not that it is something that they can't find, but to become fully proficient in would be the question. And I think that's more the important thing to at least look at. But again, it comes down to how that person's overall integrity, how they end up feeling would end up being. And that's something that's very key to kind of keep in mind. But moving on with another comment, Neoquaddle actually says, I feel the character live in a more fluid world than the one the game mechanics represent. And that is a very important thing to kind of keep in mind, simply because...
Yeah, I cannot agree more with that statement.
Yeah, like we're... A lot of times, like, even as like I get involved in a lot of discussions and theories that I have, as spinfoily as I can sometimes get, and so on, I still get lodged into this idea of, I have to stick to what I see on the in-game side of things. And we see multiple times throughout Grimoire, we see multiple times even throughout the new lore tabs, this is not necessarily the case. We still see things like the Arcblade, for instance. They're still mentioned in a few different places. We don't have that capability anymore as hunters. We see that Sunsingers are mentioned. Again, we don't have the capability as Warlocks anymore on the in-game preference. And that's a very big thing to kind of keep in mind besides. There are different teachings, which is also valued by different orders around the... especially with Warlocks, how many different orders that they have. Goodness. But for Titans, for Hunters, even if you look at it from the idea of a pack and how a pack can end up transferring on their thoughts and their ideas and their teachings, all of these things kind of just go effectively colloquially with each other. They flow well enough. But we don't see those sides of the story. We see our story. That's as far as it goes.
Justin, what do you got?
Oh, I was just gonna say, the kind of getting back to the multi-classing aspect of it, and the switching between subclasses. It kind of strikes me a lot like the discipline of martial arts. So, like when you learn a particular discipline of martial arts, like you devote yourself to that discipline. Like, but it's not that far-fetched to say that if you devoted yourself for any number of years and through immense training, that you could master multiple disciplines of martial arts and, become a master level of multiple disciplines of martial arts. I actually got to meet a 10th degree black belt in American martial arts, and he was 86 years old, and it took a lifetime to do that. But the point is that moving between subclasses and mastering different subclasses isn't far-fetched at all for me. Like I don't view that as being far-fetched at all. I mean, it's just a matter of discipline and application, and learning the way to best harness the light. And I do like the idea from chat that individuals will have a form of the light that they're specifically attuned to, and that they will gravitate to that particular discipline. But it's not out of the realm of possibility that they could master more than one. But I do view the class as more of a concrete definition of who you are, barring the rare Neo-like individual who can just break all barriers and defy all laws.
I'm going to say, because even Batman has a favorite fighting scene.
Exactly.
Green, what do you...
I was just going to reiterate that as just because you can do all three doesn't mean you enjoy or prefer doing all three.
Yeah, I mean, the same as any player. Everyone has their preferred, not just class, but subclass.
Right. I mean, I know both you and I, Blue, run Night Stalker almost exclusively.
Yep. I don't even run anything else.
I am actually a very weird case in that it depends on how I'm feeling that day. If I, however, do have to say that I am more attuned to much else, this will probably shock nobody. Voidwalker.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I
Can
play...
I guess for you, Justin? Justin, are you a gunslinger? No?
Orpheus Rig.
Yeah,
Night Stalker.
He's a Night Stalker.
He's a Night Stalker? Okay.
Yeah, Orpheus...
I don't know a hunter... I don't know a hunter alive that doesn't take advantage of Orpheus Rig.
Destiny 2 has definitely made Night Stalker the most popular choice. Like, it really has.
I would use Gunslinger if I was going to rob a bank.
Hey. When trip mine grenades were still a thing.
But that's what I mean, is like...
I exclusively ran Gunslinger in PvP because I loved making unicorns.
I would use those to keep the police from following me.
I mean, and that's the thing is, when I do play the Warlock, I kind of do bounce between Stormcaller and Voidwalker, just simply because and that's purely because those mechanics make the most sense to me. So like that's more of, but yeah, I've always, as soon as we got Night Stalker and Taken King, that pretty much became the only subclass on Hunter I'd run with.
Well, and it's kind of ironic. I guess only because it is the Warlock episode, I'll go through my ideas on like how my gameplay style had handled when I started playing Destiny. I started as a Voidwalker Warlock. Actually, I started as a Titan, but that's another day. When I had yeah, I know, right? But when I had started playing Warlock, I was a Voidwalker that had utilized a hand cannon, and hand cannon, of course, ended up falling out of the meta for quite a while. There, it was almost like completely broken. I ended up switching to Stormcaller, and I was using Pulse Rifle like all the time. Then I think it was like Rise of Iron. They ended up bringing hand cannons back into things a little bit more. And all of a sudden, I ended up switching back to utilizing Voidwalker and hand cannon almost all the time. So for some reason, my brain ended up like shifting back into this this typical measure that I've like always played as. And as soon as I had ended up starting playing D2, and the only option that I had was the Dawnblade early on, I was like, this feels so weird, because the last thing that I had played was Sunsinger. I barely touched it. I could play it. There was a stint there actually for like a few weeks. I was actually a fairly good Sunsinger, and then I got bored of it.
So I have to ask, since you started as a Titan who had hand cannons, did you play with Thorn?
What do you think?
Were you a thorny brony?
Were you a Rezel admirer because he was a Titan?
Yes, he was a Titan.
Sorry,
I didn't know that back then, though.
Who
proficiently changed to being a Warlock, and then I started to use. Wait, it wasn't me. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I love when I opened up Reddit the other day, and I was like, the first thing I saw was, so Rezel was a hunter. I'm like, nope, closing Reddit. I'm going away somewhere.
Yep.
I'm like, nope, I'm not opening that. I'm not opening that argument again.
I saw that thread and went, guys, really? We've gone over this.
Nope. I'm going to say it's now confirmed by the lead writer how this all went down. Come on, guys. Let's just tie this whole knot up and just move on, okay?
It's like literally, I saw that was the first thread I saw when I opened Reddit. And I just shut the window. It's like, and we're going to a different message board.
I'm gonna say, and suddenly that's enough internet for one day.
Yeah, it's like, nope.
But yes, I did commonly use Thorn. I loved using Thorn back in the day, but it was the only way to be competitive.
As a hunter, I use Thorn proudly, because you know what? We didn't have a Void subclass when we got it, and that was a pain.
Atheon's Epilogue, baby.
Yep, Atheon's Epilogue. Atheon's Epilogue, and was it Song of Your Ute? Was that the heavy machine gun? Oh my god!
Word of Crota.
Or Word of Crota work. Yeah. Oh man, yeah, but Atheon's Epilogue. That fire hose
and a rare.
What was the shotgun?
Fusion rifle. A rare.
No, there was a
Swordbreaker.
No, not Swordbreaker. There was, because I never got a Swordbreaker. There was another one. Was it Joker? Was it the? There was another legendary.
Oh, wait! It was was it the one from Vogue?
No. It was just
Found Verdict was art.
Found Verdict was art, and that thing was like a freaking. That was like an auto rifle that was disguised as a shotgun. You couldn't hit the broadside of the barn, but
oh no!
if you
the first shot, you had to aim at their feet. You'd hit him in the feet, the belly button, and the chin.
It was so true.
Body shots for the win.
Don't forget about Fellwinter's Lie, everybody.
Fellwinter, yeah. You mean Fellwinter's Sniper?
Yeah, really.
God, that was... that gun made me hate shotguns.
The Comedian, I think that was...
The Comedian, that's what it was.
The one.
The Comedian, yeah. Aha, ha. I love that flavor text.
It's all a joke.
Oh, man. Well, let's jump back into Warlock territory real quick. And I feel like we should let our new Warlock friend kind of introduce himself, since he is a co-host here. And he's one of the vendors that Green just loves. No one's following my tangent random thought.
You kind of have to like lead that in a little bit better.
I got you.
No,
I got you.
Not you, Justin.
Me?
So I'm talking about Asher.
Asher. Yeah.
Where's Beard when we need him? No,
I don't think he's going to.
I
was like, did I actually?
You're even talking about right now? I don't even understand anymore. You hunters and your knives needing to go and pick your own nails. You're absolutely absurd, all of you.
Yeah.
Zavala.
Can I say that is still my favorite bit of his?
That's actually my favorite quote right there. Is the or his what's the one where he's like one of the public events? He's like, yes, I can tell. Oh, you're out. Well, like, because of the incessant racket in my head. Like, he just starts yelling at you.
Yes.
Like Cabal Lander.
Yeah.
Not the Lander. It's that
Make
one.
it go away.
I will spare you the griefs of empty and hollow. Oh God, what's the word? I'm trying to think of the line now.
Ambiguity.
So here's a question.
I legitimately cannot think of this word. What is it that you pay?
I hate when that happens.
Compliments. There we go. Good grief! It's such an easy word. I will spare you the platitudes of empty and hollow compliments. But thank you.
Here's a question, though. Have we actually gotten any new Warlock figures in D2? Because Asher we knew about in D1.
We learned about him at the very end, yeah.
Right.
He was. To be fair, we learned about all of them pretty well by Age of Triumph, which is the silly thing in a way.
Yeah, we did get confirmation, though, that the Warlocks at least took on nicknames in the Iron Lords, because Ash Raven.
Yes. Yep.
That's true.
And I just blanked on what her actual name was, but she was an EXO.
Yeah.
Who
we did that a couple weeks ago.
Ash Raven.
Ash Raven.
We mentioned her a few weeks ago in the EXO episode.
No, Takeo. Sorry, chat's asking. Takeo was Zen Meteor.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
and the cause of my sorrow for like a week.
Oh my God, such tears.
See, this is what happens when you get attached to somebody that you only knew about in one Grimoire card.
I know. I was like, wow, this lady sounds awesome. What? No, Takeo. No, embrace the praxing fire. No, don't do it. Don't go towards the light.
Stop pulling an Ariana 3.
Just like Tinder. So once again, I must endure the torture of collaborative silence.
Because we knew about the Stoic, we knew about Takeo. Trying to think. Yeah, I'm honestly, I don't. What was the? Oh no, he was just an EXO. The one on the Raven bond where he's like, the Ravens are coming to kill. No, he just likes you because you're shiny. Like it was. Oh my gosh, I love that bond. We did learn more about Galida, a little bit of Tuyut.
What? You're just making up words now.
No.
Pocket Infinity.
Fire Team Tuyut.
Yeah.
Pocket Infinity.
Pocket Infinity.
Pocket, I want it back. More like it.
Yeah,
what's up?
Don't act like you used that thing. Come on.
I did. Thank you.
Yeah, when you needed your fusion rifle bounty, that was about it.
No, when I wanted to enjoy myself, thank you very much, because it was about the only good fusion rifle back in the day.
That is true.
Murmur. I liked Murmur.
My name's Rex Smith-a-Class from the Vex Smithro crew, and I'm gonna pretend you didn't say that.
Okay.
Some of
keep
us
talking
didn't
about
get the Vex
weapons that I
Smith-a-Class.
never got.
Same here.
Hey, look at that. Me and Green can have a shot on me when I end up seeing her in Guardian God. Nothing for you.
I never got
Nothing
it.
for me.
I never got Vex Mythic.
Really?
Listen,
Yeah.
Oh man, that's.
Yeah, I never
Maybe-
had the chance.
I remember
Maybe
when
you didn't have-
when that first dropped for me.
you didn't have Vex appeal.
Oh, honey. And you don't even need the. Or we could just extend it.
I love the sigh. That's the best.
I'm so happy.
All right.
Mission accomplished.
So satisfied.
God, I don't know what I'm going to do with you any of these days. Just
So-
any of these days.
There was a really interesting theory on Reddit. I know we were kind of giving Reddit a little bit of a hard time earlier, but there was a theory about how Asher cannot leave IO.
Yeah,
Like,
I saw that one.
He's bound to stay on IO because of the transformation, or the quote unquote Vex flu.
Oh, I haven't seen that one. I saw the one that was talking about how he was afraid because he hasn't been resurrected since his accident.
Right. I think they were talking about the same idea with that though too.
I didn't read. I must have missed the part where it was because like I didn't see the part where it was connected to the Vex necessarily.
But
Well, because of the Pyramidion.
Right. What's up?
keep chatting.
You looking for it?
Because I know that he's. I swear that one of his dialogue things was about how he was like he hasn't resurrected since his arm.
I don't think he's taken chances.
Well, he hasn't because I think I think the idea is that he's actually kind of afraid that he won't get resurrected. Because
Also,
remember
that's
in the ghost fragment card that we saw him in, it wasn't just him that got augmented; it was his ghost.
That's
like,
right.
Yeah.
His ghost also got infected with Vex Tech because instead of the blue eye, it has a red eye now.
Well, and this comes back to the Legends and Mysteries card, or at least the category that it got put into from Age of Triumph. The
Oh yeah,
Morn
I
card.
didn't like where they put those cards. I did not agree with
Yeah,
those categorizations. But yes,
It was
okay,
really weird.
it was.
Really
I was
weird.
trying to organize them.
Now,
He says-
as much. Sorry, go ahead.
No. You go ahead. Yours sounded better.
Okay. So, as much as we love to extend this podcast as far as we do, this is a very long card. Very long card. So if you guys get the chance to read it over, I would definitely recommend to do so. But this is actually the one, it's the Ghost Fragment Eris Morn. By all technicalities, if you look it up by the actual Grimoire categories, again, it would be underneath the Legends and Mysteries category. But that said, this is actually where we end up meeting Asher Mir, quote unquote, through Eris Morn. We find out that Eris Morn and Asher Mir are fair friends. They go back to a point, which probably explains why they both talk very similarly. But largely we know that Asher and Eris also kind of share common ground because, of course, Eris kind of lost her eyes and is now using hive eyes, and Asher lost his arm and is, kind of using a Vex arm now because it sort of started growing there. He's also bleeding Radiolaria, should point that piece out, which you could probably kind of figure out. Plenty of like weird things that go on with the way that Asher is, which I want to come back to in a bit too. But yes, his ghost is infected with Vex Tech. It actually stands watch while they are inside of the tower's med bay, which kind of comes back to what the idea that he couldn't leave Io might stand to say, maybe not, only because he was inside the med bay and that didn't seem to pose a problem. secondarily, the other question would be how often is it that we end up running the Pyramidion Strike, and how often does the what's his name, the big jerk? Now I can't think of it. Yes, thank you, Brachion. How often does Brachion decide to go ahead and steal Asher's arm? And that's the major question that you can end up asking on the Pyramidion. Mostly because if this is the case, if Brachion is destroyed, that would have been the one that he would have had a quote-unquote direct link with that might have severed something. Not saying that it reversed anything, but it might have severed something. At that point, then, I don't know. That just opens up different questions. But yes, we're also seeing the one-way ticket of Asher Mir, which is another exotic ship introduced in the Curse of Osiris expansion. That's, at least by name, would say that he can only go to Io and stay on Io. Alternatively, it could be many different things for him, as we've kind of discussed. Mostly because of, if he dies, can he come back? Will he come back as a Vex? Or will he come back as he is at the moment? Alternatively, does it also mean that he has this scientific venture to figure it out, or he's just going to turn into a Vex on his own? These are the questions that are kind of laced when it comes to Asher Mir, but also have a bit of a hand with Eris as well. How is it that she is not being overtaken a little bit more by having those hive eyes? And this is alternatively almost kind of talked about with the way that Asher talks with Eris through a letter, and I believe this is on the Dune Marchers. I forget now off the top of my head what exactly it is. There is one of the recent lore tabs, though, that brings up a letter to Eris, and Asher asks Eris, I find myself wondering, or almost reveling and admiring those that are overtaking. Speaking, of course, on the Vex. So this idea of, how both of them are able to deal with the fact that their bodies are being overtaken by these different things. Especially I find on Asher's side more than Eris's side, because Eris speaks in so many more riddles. Yes, Asher has the technobabble. Asher has the technobabble down pat, but once you get around that, you start to realize that he is still very much an awoken warlock, and he very much is afraid. You start to realize that there's a little bit more humanality behind him than before. And that's the thing that I think we're able to really connect with Asher more on. And it's funny to say that about a warlock a lot of times.
Also, I will have to say I like him a lot more when I'm not on Io and I'm standing next to one of those radios when I land in on the EDZ. He has some of the best lines over radio chatter that I have ever heard, and they are hilarious.
The one where Failsafe sings an aria.
Oh God,
it's so good. Thank you. Oh God,
Asher's response was so funny.
I mean, you're
broadcasting on all channels.
Yes. Oh,
so good.
Yeah. Regardless of the fact that that aria was a little creepy in and of itself, I felt like the voice actor channeled her inner Eris more than there on that one, because that was so creepy. Funny.
It was whatever. It's it's 6:15. It's time for.
And it's just the collective screams of the dead that she now has within her memory banks from the failsafe. I love you. It's okay. Hey.
Oh man. Let's see. So, do you guys want to kind of put the Sunsinger up against the Dawnblade and talk about what our thoughts are on that one. As far as like, I know we kind of did that with the other class update episodes with the new subclasses.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of feel like we almost did earlier in the show too, just talking about like the personality debate, I suppose.
Right.
That's the one thing I would say. Now, granted, comparing them is definitely of interest, at least behind their, overall tools that they have, what it is that they bring to the battlefield, stuff like that. It's a slightly different take on the way that solar energy is utilized, especially for a warlock, and highly for a warlock, because it's more of a, especially obviously with Dawnblade, it's more of a offensive take than Sunsinger's defensive resurrective take.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing, that I think at least kind of just stands to show the difference between the two. Just their overall tool sets are very different.
I'm just glad that there's not one class so OP that you could solo Skolox now. Because watching Datto and Bife both do that made me sick.
Blah.
I'm like,
No, that's like talking to Bife while he's soloing the Prison of Elders.
Right?
Yeah.
I was like, Bife, what are you doing? I'm watching Vex get stuck in walls. Okay. I'm going to go back to playing the Division beta, which was terrible.
E3's announcing Division 2, just FYI.
Hang on, let me check. Hang on, give me a real second. Yep, still don't care.
Division 2, bullet sponge me more.
With no
Yeah,
story.
no, I mean, okay, I'll before I get yelled at for that comment.
Mm-hmm.
Tinks, don't kill me. Like I don't get any enjoyment out of playing Division. It's just, I never have. I've tried it. I gave it a fair shot and I just was like, nope, no interest. So I'm sure, I'm not saying that it's a bad game. I just don't care about it.
It's just not your cup of tea.
No.
It's developed into a very good game.
I have heard that. I've heard that.
To hear. So.
I have heard that. I am very happy to hear that they did that. I'm very glad that has happened. I still am not interested in it.
I just have a feeling that if I were to actually create the video that I was thinking and still am thinking of making, people are going to get very flustered and flabbergasted with me. And I'm not going to care.
Isn't that normal for you, though?
Look, this would be like worse than normal, okay? This is crossing some bounds.
Okay.
I have almost 21,000 subscribers. Nope, I'll be at 1,000 overnight.
Well, I mean, if you wanted to rebrand that would be the way to do it, right? Isn't that how that works?
I guess there's no other way than to push myself to start a new channel.
Oh my gosh, okay, that's depressing. Let's go back to something versus Dawnblade.
Oh, well, and I guess the big thing for me is, and we definitely did talk about this a little bit earlier, is really and similar to the other classes and the evolution of their subclasses. When we talked about them, I see this as a transformation in the way that the warlocks use their power. Kind of like what you were saying, and this is ignoring the game mechanics to a degree, because I understand they had to introduce a new subclass, blah blah blah. Yeah, okay, that's fine. But as far as like in game, a justification for why we are suddenly recovering these quote unquote ancient subclasses is that we are getting more aggressive as players. in the game. The Guardian story has entered into this era of not just defending the city. No, we're actually pushing back, and that's where you get, the Arc Strider is much more versatile and much more mobile and very much more offensive. You have the Sentinel, which, going from a defender, which is a stationary defensive target or defensive entity, to the Sentinel, which is a moving defensive entity, is a very big step into the offensive realms.
That depends on if it's alpha or actual live. I'm just saying the bubble used to move.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Did it move? Did it move?
In alpha and I think early beta they had it where the
you could move it.
The bubble could, Word of Dawn could move.
So you were literally in a hamster ball? Because that's like literally all I can think of now is a Titan running in a hamster ball made out of void.
Trust me, all I could think about was the movie Bubble Boy. That's exactly what I thought about the entire time.
Or the
Jake Gyllenhaal and everything.
What was the Bolt, the little hamster?
Yes.
I'm gonna kill ya.
Gosh.
Actually, that's a very, very accurate portrayal of Titans. Now that I think about it. Anyways,
I will have to say I do miss the bubble.
They still have it.
They still have it.
I
They
know,
just don't
it's
utilize it as much.
Yeah, because it's the only subclass that still has the old subclass ability. Because you can, I think it's the lower tree. I think.
Mm-hmm.
But in the same vein, though, the Dawnblade is much more aggressive than the Sunsinger. The Sunsinger was much more a support, air quotes there, support. It was intended to be a support class.
I don't know. I played PvP, and they were not very supportive.
No, they were not. No, they were not supportive of anything. They were annoying.
That's
stupid grenade sticks.
That's dependent on what discipline rating you gave yourself, because
that and what freaking grenade you decided to hold, you and your mini sons.
I mean, in PvE, you were spamming the heck out of the mini sun.
Oh no, in PvP you did it too.
Breakers. And no, in PvP it was usually fusion. And
that's
clearing
true.
teams with fusion.
Yeah,
because it was broken back in the day. Anybody miss one-hit fusions? Anybody? You want to reminisce on that one?
In general.
I miss power.
I miss power.
I think that's why I still run with Nova Bomb, because I'm like, well, at least something can one-shot something.
Oh my god, the Nova Bomb that chases you is in my nightmares.
It's the evolution of Liam Neeson. Now it actually will. Now it actually will come and find you.
Oh god.
It used to be just your stupid little grenades that you'd throw, and those were bad enough. Now it's the entire freaking thing. It's like, I'm gonna come, and it's like, what makes it worse with the Nova Bomb is it's not fast. Like, it's the slowest thing in the world, and it's just that makes it even. It's like the Michael Myers.
Until they shoot it.
A giant purple Pac-Man.
Yeah, and then suddenly they waka right over towards you.
Oh my god! It waka walks around the walls.
Yup.
So that is my beef with that. I'm glad that Stormcaller's kind of less powerful than it was in D1. Because I'm sorry, lawnmowers. I love you, but stop it. But anyway, that is. What do you think? We've got a pretty good coverage of a lot of things. I'm sure there's more we could go into.
Yeah, the Warlocks actually have some really fun armor sets. And and it's not because it's kind of interesting, because it used to be in Destiny 1, it was the flavor text that was really interesting. In Destiny 2, the flavor text is not super interesting.
It's still got some good bits.
It's got some good bits.
While.
It's not as I don't feel like it's got as much fun little quips in it. And granted, we also had like 3 years worth of it in Destiny 1. So, but the name convention of some of the armor sets is really cool. Like one of my favorite ones is the Philomath armor set. Even the exotic pieces have some pretty cool like aesthetics. I kind of am offended that Warlocks have the nicest style in Destiny 2 as a hunter.
Oh my gosh, right?
And we're not gonna thankfully Mel's not here because she went off when we first had Destiny 2. She was so unhappy about that.
Especially locking is totally a thing.
Yeah, I mean, well, and I guess the weird thing is for me, it's like hunters have always been described as like the ones who actually really care about the aesthetics of their gear, whereas the Warlocks and Titans have always kind of that's secondary. It's not that it's not important, but it's kind of secondary. And so for the Warlocks to have the most aesthetically pleasing gear, I'm like, I mean, no one really cares. The Titans had a platypus armor, for God's sake. Like they're whatever.
I love the bubble armor for Titans now. It's so funny.
The Michelin Man armor set is pretty awesome. Like but it's not because it's aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not. You look
just
like
seeing T-Rex as a yellow.
You look like a dinosaur that got stung by something you're allergic to. You have your short, stubbly arms, and it's just like the ridiculous poofy armor. Oh my gosh! But
yeah, the look of the Warlock, just even the exotics look really cool in comparison.
Yeah,
like the wings of Sacred Dawn. I love that. I mean, it's a little much. It's a lot of gold.
But the what's the one with is it Eye of Another World?
The crazy helmet that looks like it's a galaxy?
Yeah, that's so cool. That's the one I have on my Warlock. I love that, the way that looks. I'm trying to think.
Well, I'm going to say, should we bring up the gloves that shall not be named?
Which one? The Sunbreakers?
Well, there's those, but I was more talking about ones about Aspect and stuff.
Oh,
yeah, Toland's unofficial, totally official gloves.
Yeah,
Ophidian's.
Yeah, the Ophidians. Yeah,
gross.
Gross.
What's up with that one? Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Do you mean gameplay wise because of how absolutely broken they are, or
have I the aspic on my lips?
Yeah. They I always was like wondering who it was that, and excuse my tippy taps, I always wondered who it was that owned these things, because they fit so well for what I would say Toland would have behind him. And lo and behold, we end up getting a little bit of confirmation behind it because of the text that actually is backing these. But I
got it.
You've got it? If you want to read it, go ahead. If not, I got it here.
Okay. Have I the aspic in my lips? A torn and crumpled journal page found on the street in the city. Not his lessons I remember so much as the words we exchanged in passing. I recall a trivial argument we had over some tale from the Golden Age. It might have been a love story or a tragedy. A proud queen, forsaken by a lover obsessed with his past heroism, chooses to preserve her dignity in death rather than endure humiliation. He brought it up as an example of why we should not fear death, but even as he spoke, I thought to myself, what about those who look to her to rule? those whose lives depend on her own. Now, looking back, it strikes me that he talked with the arrogance of one who can always return from the void, one who has contemplated the darkness so long he thinks of it as a friend of sorts.
And for me, when I ended up seeing the things about the void, we know that Toland utilizes the void pretty heavily.
Mm-hmm.
We know that he was also a sun singer, though, in small part, at the very least. And he always talks about his analogy with the queen. So seeing it here again on these gloves really makes me think that these were Toland's gloves at one point or another, which is pretty darn cool, at least to me. But there's a lot of like little bits that they've kind of done with some of the other Warlock gear. But that one, at least to me, screamed that it was like really, that this is from the once great Toland that we will never probably hear from again, except for
the last line is what gets me. One who has contemplated the darkness so long he thinks of it as a friend of sorts.
Right.
I mean, it could very well be in referring to Toland. There's a few others that it theoretically could refer to as well.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
And it also confirms my long-held theory that Toland eats meat jelly.
Yep. Also snakes. He enjoyed snakes.
Meat jelly?
Yeah,
that's
aspic.
basically what aspic is.
Right.
It's a savory jelly made with meat stock.
Yes.
Set in mold and used to contain pieces of meat, seafood, or eggs. Literally, it sounds like fart fuel.
Thank you for making that lighter, because I was slightly getting grossed out over here.
Who let you out of your cage, Justin?
I don't know.
Who let you out of your cage? God.
Gosh. I always assumed that term meant having to do with an asp.
Like a snake, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but then that makes no sense.
Well, and it does in the sense of the actual look of Ophidians, because you've got the twin serpents that are kind of like twisting.
How would you have the aspic on your lips?
In your lips.
Oh,
in
I know.
Your lips.
In your lips.
It's like, what is that called?
Lips.
Yeah, it's like, what are you called when you get your lips poofed out? The plastic surgery?
Botox.
Botox.
Yeah.
And that technically is a type of poison, generally.
So, these are Toland's gloves, and he's allergic to meat jelly.
He's injecting himself with snake venom.
I think he's eating meat jelly because he's allergic to it, and he knows his lips will puff.
Added the bit in the center with the Ophidian's aspects. There's a sphere. I wanted to say globe, but there's a sphere that turns between the two serpent heads. And it always made me think of an oversoul for some reason. So, anyway.
It's kind of green.
Yep.
It's bluish green.
Unless you shade it. Because let me tell you, it ain't green after you shade it.
Mm. Well, also the word Ophidian means a reptile of the group Ophidia, which is a snake, the legless ones.
Mm-hmm.
So that's unsettling.
The twin snakes revolving around something, though, reminds me of the medical symbol.
Kind of reminds me of Thulsa Doom, but that's just me.
Also, makes me think of a remake for Metal Gear Solid 1, but who's counting?
Solid Snake.
You're talking about the rod of the Skipolies.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was it, Green.
Mm-hmm.
One other big exotic that I think is fair. Well, I'm gonna say Transversive Steps also comes back with a vengeance, and I feel like that's kind of a cool one to talk about, just because of the theory. Same with Starfire Protocol, because we hear a little bit more behind what the protocol is. But the other one that's been questionable is Karnstein Armlets.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, real quick. Sorry.
Yeah.
Real quick. I misspoke. It's not the rod of Asclepius, it's the Caduceus. Asclepius has one snake and no wings. The Caduceus has the two snakes and the wings. Just, sorry. Also, the aspic in my lips, that's from Shakespeare. For anyone who might not be familiar with that, that's the Cleopatra and Antony bit. Their death scene is from, that's the actual quote, is "Have I the aspic in my lips? Dost fall?" And so that's actually their death, their mutual suicide, I guess.
Mm-hmm. It's another version of Romeo and Juliet, but
right,
better.
Well, because it actually somewhat accurate, but not like historically accurate, but it was actually kind of along the lines of, I don't know, someone who wasn't an emo and throwing a tantrum. I hate Romeo and Juliet. It's the freaking terrible. But
anyway,
I couldn't tell.
Yeah, it's anyways, "Have I the aspic in my lips" is a nod to that. It's a quote from, I think it's Act 5, in Antony and Cleopatra from Shakespeare. The other thing that I also always think of is we only really have a couple characters who have actually kept journals in Destiny, and that would be Covalence and Teamer. Yeah. And so,
also,
go for it.
Just a side note on this. This is one of the times that they remember a Golden Age story, or they're talking about a Golden Age story.
Well, Raoul has a lot of mentions of things that he's dug up through cryptology, because he talks about Plutarch. There was a throwaway idle dialogue line where he was confused about smut in Destiny 1, which was absolutely one of the most oddest things to hear him talk about.
Also Guardian jousting.
Guardian jousting. And then the Fabian strategy was him. So there's a lot of nods to him. And then Zavala has all the text of the Art of War and all that. There are some throwbacks to the Golden Age and pre-Golden Age text. I mean, Nezrak. Nezrak is a pre-Golden Age text. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's not unheard of.
The grumbling.
We were talking about Karnstein's armlets, too. That one's actually an exo.
Mm-hmm. Yes, unless you take it from the Hammer Horror trilogy, in which case it's absolutely nothing. But that's for a different discussion.
Mm-hmm.
But the implications that exist here, we talk about bones a lot in Destiny's armor, especially when it comes to Ahamkara, and how they end up feeding back into the ideas and thoughts of the wielder and owner of the pieces of equipment. It's argued and thought on how bad juju also could have affected how Toland was acting, so on. But we definitely know that the Weapons of Sorrow had some implemented thoughts within the wielder's minds. There were, bones are a very big thing. And I make this a point because of the way the Karnstein armlets are written up. And if you look at what is on the glove themselves, it looks like it's scaled. And it's the first time that, at least I know of, that we have these scales that are kind of listed as a means of talking back. Unless you end up looking further and you look at the white bands that are there, are those bone or are they just a plastic weave that's there? Or if you end up looking at the black shapes that are the pyramid overlay scales, almost, that are also over top of the black and red scales, are these somehow some kind of computer mesh, if you will. They're like able to keep these memories that you hear of in this lore tab pieced together. And I still don't really have an answer for it, but I just find it interesting because, and I'm gonna, of course, read over this because it points it out very, very much within the first line that this is something that's speaking to you. And again, we only really knew about that from like the Ahamkara and a couple other pieces of equipment, especially like Graviton Forfeit and what was the other big one? The Stag. Those are another couple of them. Ooh, the Stag! I almost forgot about the Stag. I'll read over the Karnstein Armlet while I have him here. Mm-hmm. You are mine. You shall be mine. You and I are one forever. As you test the armlet, a regal voice sounds, mine. Listen, I made this armlet to help you in your quests. Will you help me in mine? I remember a woman from my last life. I remember she was mine, my love, my wife, and I was hers, her love, her wife. I remember nothing else except the hole in my heart. I live in hope that she, too, has been reincarnated and somewhere on this new earth. I built this armlet and a neuromesh trowel, with a neuromesh trowel. I will scour whatever mind it touches, flesh or machine, for any hint of my beloved. The trowel will drink power to feed you, and if anyone you touch has seen my wife, the trowel will know. If, only and ever if, I have remembered her truly. So, obviously sounds like... What's that?
So sad.
So sad. There's an obvious piece behind the way that this is kind of like talked about, as somebody seems to have put these gloves together for your character or Warlock or otherwise. But that's the big thing that I wanted to kind of at least point out. Blue, I think you had something.
Yeah, so real quick, the opening quote, "You are mine, you shall be mine, you and I are one forever." That's actually from Carmilla,
right?
Which is a Victorian kind of is a very, very risque especially for the time, risque vampire story about the Countess of I just blanked on the region that she was in, but it was written by J. Sheridan Le Fanu, I think. And it's actually it's a very good read, actually, if you have the stomach for it, because there's some really twisted things that happen in the story. But it's a very, very, very important piece in the evolution of vampiric mythology. It's up there with Dracula as far as you can go for the influence on modern vampire mythos. But that line is actually directly from Carmilla. And so, yeah, I found that interesting. And then you had, I know you mentioned it, the Karnstein trilogy, which was also about vampires. And interestingly enough, they were all female. And so that was again another thing that was a little bit kind of risque for the time being, or the time that it was. And they were all, I think, I cannot remember that one, because I remember looking at the plot of it and it was like really confusing and not at all anything that I cared about when I was researching the vampire mythology, which is not, super surprising. But yeah, sorry. I was just like, you said that quote and I was like, oh man, that's vampiric.
Yep.
Vampiric possession right there, like completely. Which it goes towards the neuromech trawl concept.
Right.
That's a very common understanding of vampiric power, is the mind reading and the mind control. So yes, and Green, that is true as well. The lesbian type themes is very strong in all of those stories. Carmilla and the Karnstein trilogies were predominant in that particular aspect. But
I think we've hit quite a bit.
yeah,
Any
now
last
I want to do a
notes?
snapshot on the Karnstein armlets. Thanks, Boo.
I will help you with that one.
Because that one has I forgot about the connection to Carmilla on that one until you read that quote, and I was like, oh, that's
She's literally Countess Karnstein, by the way.
Yeah.
who?
Camilla.
Oh yeah.
Mm. Yeah, that was the first thing that I had ended up looking up on it, and I know my first gut reaction was, well, this doesn't really have a lot of tiebacks that we can really fall back to on lore, and I started reading it again, and I'm like, no, it's there. It's there.
It's there.
It's really outlandish, and it makes me think that vampires really existed, and that's Destiny is totally approving of it.
Well, the hive are vampires.
And then also some of the void walker abilities.
Mm-hmm. Those vampiric tendencies, but the hive literally suck the light out of things, and light is a life animating power, which is very in line with the Eastern concept of vampiric mythology. Because the East view vampires as siphoning out chi, not blood. Blood is only used in Western mythologies because they saw that as the seat of the life. Whereas the Far East kind of view it as a spiritual energy. The Western always kind of had the more physical component, which is where you get the ancient concepts of balancing the fluids in ancient Greece and stuff like that. That was a very Western thought process. And so that's where you get this. Actually, it's a really interesting schism in the origin of the vampire mythology, because the original vampire mythology from India was actually more in line with the Far East. It was a very spiritual corruption and spiritual cannibalism almost. But yeah, so I think the whole thing with the vampiric underlying current is especially prevalent within Destiny. Sorry, I'm reading chat. I'm reading chat. I'm like.
Sorry, I broke Beard again. It's fine. It's fine.
I now blame Green for the way that my thoughts are going. So hang on, let me get my book so I can write that one down.
Right. Well, and the reason I kind of fixated on Carmilla is because that's what I actually did my thesis in college on, was the vampire mythos between Dracula and Carmilla. And then the Victorian view of death.
Nice.
So that's something that actually I'm somewhat versed in. But so let's do final thoughts, shout outs for the team. I know, Justin, you got an early morning tomorrow. Do you want to lead the way?
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, just a big shout out to the whole team and everyone who wished me happy birthday. I turned 36 over the weekend.
I sent you unicorns and dancing horses.
And no snakes.
And I did not send you snakes. I did not.
It was my 1 day of respite. Which I appreciated. Yeah, and just otherwise, just everybody in the Focus Fire, and look forward to seeing y'all next week. Hopefully, I'm not so tired.
Yeah.
Beard, what about you?
Well, kind of like Wednesday. I don't really have too much because my life has just been focusing on life for the most part. So thank you to all of you for, again, just being an outlet that I've been able to lean on over the past month, really. to make sure that I am not absolutely losing my mind on, wanting to do any of this stuff or try to do any of this stuff full time. I thank you all for just listening to my crazy rantings and finding value in it wherever there might be, because I'm still trying to figure that one out. But that's a me level. But again, thank you guys for just, being around. I can't thank this community enough for just being here, being you. So thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And Green, what about you?
I actually am going to shout out to all of our new people that are kind of jumping on, especially those of you who are jumping into live chat. I see a fairly, from what I can tell, like on Twitter and everything, a fairly new follower with 1 Fox, 2 Fox, 3 Fox 4, which I love that name because it throws me back to.
Okay, sorry to interrupt. I just saw what he just said in chat, and that's amazing, Justin. I am totally saving that for next year. Another Green, please read that.
Yes, I will. Fox and I have been chatting quite a bit on Twitter, which is why I brought him up. But he posted in Twitter a happy birthday statement for Justin, and it says, "Another year slithered up on Justin. Shed off last year's skin."
Gross. If you show me another animal so evil that its own skin resents it and can only be around for just a little while before it leaves.
Justin, your skin does that. It just doesn't do it all at once.
Look, if I could molt a Justin casing and leave it at work where people would think I was working, I would.
So you want to be a cicada?
Yeah.
Oh.
Wasn't your shout out a couple weeks ago the Ouroboros? Because it's the only snake that does the honorable thing.
Eat yourself.
Oh.
Hashtag eat yourself.
Hashtag eat yourself.
But yeah, my shout out goes to all of our newer followers / Twitterverse people / Discord people. It surprises me still that people are still jumping on, which is awesome, and I love it. And I love talking to you guys, so keep it up.
Definitely. And for me, like I said, the topic next week is going to be on the 9. So please be sure to send your thoughts in on that one. And actually, I'm really surprised. There's a really big, or well, not really big, but a very positive response to the snapshot series that we had, or that I'm kind of trying to throw together. So I'm trying to keep that up on a monthly basis for right now. It's been extremely busy, as you might know if you're in the Discord chat. So I'm trying to keep that up. But yes, Green, thank you for reminding me. The question for next week is going to be, what does the horse represent in the Spire? So, excuse me. Justin is very excited to hear your answers to this one. But yeah, so let me run through an outro, and then we'll probably stay for a little bit of an after show. With that, we'll begin to wrap the chat up. Thank you again to those over on Twitch for coming to spend your evening with us. If you'd like to join us for the live streaming of the episodes, please be sure to give us a follow over on twitch.tv/FocusFireChat. Links to all our other sites can also be found with our episode archives over on the new FocusFireChat.com. Please be sure to email us at focusfirechat@gmail.com with any questions or comments for our team concerning the podcast, and let us know how we're doing by giving us some feedback and a rating over on iTunes as well. Also, be sure to check out all of our amazing podcast partners within the Guardian Radio Network over on theguardiansofdestiny.com. So until next time, focus your fire and may your light shine bright.